I notice that there's a lot of people that do really well on Instagram, and I'm kind of looking, well, what do you do else in your life? You do nothing else in your life. You're a model, you sit around, you have nothing else to do but take pictures of yourself and be cute and wink and blow bubbles and blow kisses. But on the other hand, I have really strong opinions about things, and I really do get into the sharing of those, and I find it can be really informative.
Sometimes I just think it's in bad taste. It's basically electronic gossip, and most of it is crap, or like just people's stupid opinions, uninformed opinions. But there, of course, there's like really beautiful things about it, like people, you know, get certain causes done and get people to show up. But I think 90% of it is like television. It's just crap. And you know, after a while you see people's things and they become repetitive. You know what I'm saying? Like people eat, you know, they show you their food, and then it's women with their girlfriends at parties, at the airport, in the restaurant.
I love the fact that social media allows me to bring up the things that I feel very strongly and very deeply about, make other people aware of them, and encourage them to do something about it. While there are absolutely many things that are negative and irritating, you know, actually the positive things that social media has done, the way it's connected people, the way it's brought people together, far outweigh the negative things.
I don't agree at all. I think it's made people completely unhumane and not give a shit about other people who are right next to them.
False connection.
Right, it's a fault. Look, okay, I'll give you an example. I was leaving my friend's apartment the other night. My friend is bragging about how he talked to a guy in China. We get in the elevator. He doesn't speak to the guy who lives next door to him, but he's bragging to me about how he just talked to some people in China. Well, one of them actually has an effect on you. The guy lives next door to you. People don't know the person across the street from them, but they're tweeting Beyonce.
I feel like part of the power of the internet is like to get you to see different viewpoints and get you to experience things that you wouldn't otherwise experience. You can get wrapped up in these circles in like Instagram and Twitter where you're following all the same sort of people who all follow each other. By choosing who you follow, you're only seeing like viewpoints that you agree with.
I feel like everyone just talks shit about like all my friends. Like, I live on the internet. Like, I am on so many different platforms and I love so many things about each one of them. I built some really great relationships that I never would have built before. One of the girls in my wedding I met on YouTube, I've met her in person once. I feel like I have a closer relationship with her than some people that I know in my real life.
I would rather just not be on social media. I know, like, unless it's to promote the album when the time comes or to do something like that. It's time consuming, it's things that you have to worry about when you should just be concentrating on your art. And a lot of times it becomes, how do I impress my fans? How do I keep them engaged while I'm trying to work on my art? Where it should just be, work on your art and that'll keep them engaged, you know?
I try to make sure that my content has value. I only want to talk about myself like a tiny little sliver of the time. I don't want people to come onto my Twitter and it just be like, I'm doing this now I'm hanging out with this, now I'm taking a shit, now I'm blah, blah. When I tweet something, I want you to either like laugh or learn something, and that's it.
I've definitely been turned off from people who I actually like in real life,
well, that's
because they sit on social media all day, like venting everything that goes through their mind, and I'm just kind of like, I don't.
That's the thing I don't like about celebrities on Twitter.
I feel like it's the kind of wannabe celebrities or someone that they're getting some sort of kick out of sharing every little thing that happens to them, every emotion that they have, and I think it kills a lot of the mystery. And then when I see them in real life, I go into it being like, I really, really despise you, and like I've grown to hate you. And then I talk to them in real life, and I'm like, oh, like actually, like I like you, like you're really actually a pretty nice person.
Sometimes I feel pressured to write things, you know, there's like, you got to get your social media up, you got to do all that stuff. I'm like, I really don't have anything to say. Like, people are talking about washing the dishes and having sex with like random people. Like, I don't feel comfortable getting all personal and stuff with people I don't know. And I think a little bit of mystery goes a long way. Artists in general have lost that whole mystique, you know, just by having to just like divulge every little detail about their lives. And that's something that I want to keep. So I think I'm just gonna keep, you know, talking about the music.
I feel like I have a lot of positive experiences, and I'm often posting about those positive experiences, and I feel like that's probably annoying to some people, and I'm becoming more conscious of that.
I had to like stop using my personal Facebook and only use my artist page because I felt like it was too much of a temptation to go and like stalk people I don't like. People only put the most positive, amazing things that happens in life, and it kind of would make me feel a little bit bad if I was having a bad day or something, anything was bothering me.
I run into people from high school and they're like, God, like you're doing so awesome. Like I always see you just doing all these gigs. Meanwhile, like I woke up that morning and I'm like, I have $15 and like my life is completely falling apart. On my own, I'm a happy person and I like who I am. So like, it's only when I start to like, sort of like compare myself to all these other people that I start to like doubt all of that stuff, which like I think is like, that sucks.
I was conscious of the fact that my life was looking very glamorous on Facebook. I get invited to speaking gigs around the world, you know, and I was posting photos from really glamorous places, and I felt that what was coming across was a lifestyle that wasn't really reflective of the life I was really living. So I took a deliberate decision to start posting things on Facebook about the difficult and unpleasant things. I just went, I'm going to be really frank about the horrible times I go through when life is really shit. A girl wrote to me just a few days ago to say, I just want you to know how much your Facebook posts helped me with everything that's going on in my life.
It can also make people forget about real life. You know, actual life that people live. They talk to one another, you know. You get on the train and what is everyone doing? They're staring at their phone even if there's nothing on it. People live in a world that's sort of a relative reality. A friend of mine works for Roger Waters, and so when they were doing the Pink Floyd tour, he put this whole visual package together. But he says the thing that disappoints him the most is when he looks out into the crowd, people are all on their phones. Everybody's just taking pictures of themselves or taking pictures of the stage, and no one moves to the music or anything anymore.
There is sort of this temptation to feel that it's an actual reality instead of an illusion.
You go out to a party and meet a bunch of people, and then afterwards someone tells you that one of those people is like really popular on like on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and you're like, whoa, like they didn't seem that cool, like, you know, like why do they have such a big following online?
Do you get fans that say to you like, oh, you are not like how I thought you were?
I'm very personable and down to earth and a little bit ghetto, and they don't realize that, you know, the South Jamaica comes out when I'm like, you know, just chilling. So I think I get that a lot. Maybe I should show that more.
People just turn around and they'll be like, yeah, I'm a writer, I'm an actor. You go through people's their Twitter profile, DJ, writer, actor, singer, producer. Everyone wants to be a celebrity. Kids, when they grow up these days, it used to be kids wanted to be astronauts and firefighters and all this stuff. Something like sick amount of people, like 80% of kids these days, all they want is to be famous. And it doesn't even matter how they get there.
It doesn't really matter like how many followers you have in the real, like reality in the real world. If you don't put in those hours, if you don't actually do the work, it's not gonna happen for you.
It's also the process matters. You know, just seeing the photo at the end is not the same as like seeing the process of the person. So if a person has worked a long time as a photographer, they have a process, they've done different things you've seen, but a person can just put a great photo up on Instagram. You don't know if it's theirs or not anyway. Like the photo of Biggie I have with the crown, like I've seen it in so many different ways, and the person will send it to me thinking it's respectful, but basically you're just copying something that I did and then sending it back to me like a different color. I find that strange because I would think that they would want to do their own thing, not mine. And so I think it makes people lazy. If you put up something about war, like I put things about war or the pictures I took in refugee camps, no one says anything. They'll like it, but they won't say anything because they don't want to talk about anything that has any substance really. Like if you looked at the internet, you wouldn't even know there was a war going on.
But I think any tool can be used in the right way and the wrong way. And I think that that's important to consider. I don't follow people that tweet about their personal information. Like if you're tweeting what you're eating today, I'm unfollowing you. I do comedy videos, but I try to do socially conscious things. Like I try to talk about serious issues. I'll give you a good example. I talked about the fact that I was date raped my senior year of high school and I was called a slut. And it was a really traumatic experience for me, and that we should stop labeling people as sluts. It perpetuates this idea that being promiscuous leads to being raped. I got emails from people, men and women around the world, who were like, thank you for making that video. Another girl who said, you convinced me to press charges against my rapist and he got 8 years.
I blogged for Huffington Post, and I did this whole experiment where I used Grindr, and I wrote this whole like really personal thing about my sex life and about Grindr and using Grindr, and it was an amazing thing overall, even though I was nervous about putting it out there in the first place. When I put it out, I felt really good because I got a lot of feedback from people saying, I read this, I related to what you went through. It was all really good. That's really different. Like me writing that piece, you putting your YouTube video is different than somebody just randomly saying something in 140 characters that they impulsively just say.
Have there been moments where you felt you've like done something too personal and regretted it?
Oh my God, all the time. Just because I'm a human, I'll catch myself doing the exact thing that I just talked about hating all the time. Like I'll like, oh yeah, you just posted a picture of, you know, something that, you know, was definitely intended to like imply that you were doing something cool, and I like look back at that and I'm like, ugh.
Anybody who follows me on Facebook and Twitter would say to you, oh, Cindy's completely unfiltered, you know, we share, absolutely not, you know. So I allude to the fact that I date younger men, casually, recreationally, and in quite prolific amounts. I never talk about any of them specifically. I have one overall rule of thumb for the way I live my life in terms of what I put out there, which I apply to everything, including sexting, is how would I feel if this turned up on the front page of the New York Post? Now, being me, that actually gives me quite a lot of latitude because there's an awful lot I wouldn't mind turning up on the front page of the New York Post. But that's my criteria.
No one thinks about the psychology of the thing you're using. It was developed to make you do certain things that, with your mind, that you don't know you're doing them. Even the words they use, like follow me and fan.
Follow back.
And like fan, it's like the words are chosen and and you know, like these likes of like, it's, you know, on Facebook, everything is like, but it doesn't really mean anything. When people tell me they're following me, it makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't want you to follow me. If you like my photo, it's one thing, but I'm separate from that.
I'm very conscious of children, of what they're listening to, of what they're hearing, what they're saying. And I feel like everything is too available. You know, you leave your kid on the computer for 5 minutes and they can already have seen how to make meth, how to like, you know, like when is a good time to shoot people, how to make a police scanner. It's just taking them away from reality. And I think it's filling their mind with thoughts and constant worries and things that doesn't need to be in there. I looked into a 12-year-old's Facebook. I mean, I looked on her messages and there were these random guys. They had to be like 16, 17. No, they were like 30. Just random, just hitting them up. You look good. They were calling each other hoes, niggas, bitches, shit. All. I couldn't even believe this was the same little girl that I was talking to in my face. And I feel like there's this whole other world, this dark, like creeper world that happens, you know, and there's no like real supervision.
I think what Twitter does in particular, and Instagram, it creates an illusion of equality that isn't actually there. Exactly. So like, for instance, like you're looking at Twitter and your tweet is next to Rihanna's tweet, is next to President Obama's tweet on your timeline. So in your mind, you're like, oh, what I'm saying here to my, you know, 300 followers is the same as what Barack Obama's saying to his 20 million followers, or Rihanna's saying to her 30 million followers, or Winter saying to her 100,000 followers, or whatever it is. But Joe Schmo person spending their time tweeting to their 300 followers is actually probably like a giant waste of their time. So I think that that's an important point to bring up. But at the same time, like I like a lot of stuff about it. Like I laugh all the time. Like I follow a lot of comedians on Twitter that make me like, I would be really sad if I couldn't like look at that. When Barack Obama won both presidential elections and engaging in those giant moments with everybody at once and feeling everyone experience that, those are the moments when I walk away from social media going like, wow, this really is amazing. And like, I'm so glad that I got to share this moment with all these people as opposed to just like my sister.
What I love about social media is what it makes happen in the real world. So I was at a conference in Berlin. I was tweeting what the speakers were saying. Someone who follows me in Germany, who I didn't know, tweeted back at me, and she happened to mention that Lady Gaga was playing live in Berlin that night. And I tweeted, I would kill to see Lady Gaga live in Berlin tonight. And another follower of mine, who is a woman who works in Amsterdam, tweeted back at me and went, okay, Lady Gaga, O2 Arena tonight, Berlin, stand or sit. And I went, what? In the space of less than an hour, I got a free ticket to see Lady Gaga. The concert was amazing, and I had a brilliant night in Berlin thanks to Twitter. That's making shit happen in the real world, number one. Making shit happen in the real world, number two. I happen to possess a Gucci chainsaw, and my friend Karen, who is the fashion director of Dazed and Confused, asked to borrow it for a shoot in LA. And I went, great, you know, love that. Neither Karen nor I had really thought through the implications of her attempting to board a JetBlue flight to LA carrying a Gucci chainsaw as hand luggage. Obviously, it never made it onto the plane. Ended up in some kind of like holding pen of JetBlue's at JFK, from which it proved enormously difficult to extract it. So I just tweeted and I went, this is outrageous. JetBlue are holding my Gucci chainsaw hostage. Hashtag free the Gucci chainsaw. And free the Gucci chainsaw was all over Twitter. And it took exactly 45 minutes for JetBlue to tweet me and go, "Oh, Miss Scarlett, we found your chainsaw. It's there for you to collect anytime you want it."
Recently, with like the Paula Deen scandal, like the trending topic was Paula Deen's best dishes, where people were coming up with like racist dishes that Paula Deen probably likes, like let freedom onion rings. And I was just so inspired by like how people took something that was like a media disaster and turned it into something like very funny. And I was just like, that's freaking awesome. Like they made it trend for like 3 days. In terms of that democracy, like it made stars out of like everyday normal people who never had a Twitter following, but they just said something that was really funny and it like increased their presence online.
You use it, it doesn't use you. This is what it can do for you. These are the things you need to be aware of. I mean, if you don't want to be made miserable by everybody else's, wonderful lives on Facebook, don't look. I have to say to girlfriends or men friends all the time, do not Facebook stalk your ex because it's just going to make you incredibly unhappy. You've got to resist that temptation. This is the 21st century version of etiquette. This is modern manners. This is what you teach your children.
I think that as we go on, it'll become like part of when you go to school, like you'll learn about the same way like we have DARE. We're starting to create like what is the etiquette for this.
Yeah, it's like acid and Hate Ashbury. When it first came out, like everyone was like, "Oh, utopian society," where we're all on acid, and then everyone kind of figured out.
Now
that
everyone's starting to find out like, oh,
you can only use acid sometimes.
If I tweet out like a death threat to the president, like the Secret Service is going to show up at my house.
Social media has changed everyone's lives forever. In terms of everything we're talking about, the genie is out of the box. We all have to figure out new ways of living life around the fact that social media is now a fact of life. All of the downsides we're talking about, we have to find ways to address them that acknowledge the existence of social media and then potentially use social media to tackle the things that we're all concerned about.